So Prince Harry is celebrating a monumental victory, but what has he won exactly? We're not really sure, but we do know that he's got an apology, which is significant for reasons I'll come back to in a moment. But sure enough, his barrister David Sherborne has hailed this as a, quote, monumental victory. So we'll come to that in just a minute, but if you are new to me, I am Daniel Shunsmith. I run both the Black Belt Barrister channel and here Black Belt Secrets, so you get a little bit more free-flowing thought and my personal views here, so I might interject those as we go along. And we're also going to talk in this video about Rachel Reeves' devastating attack upon the wealthy in this country and ultimately the economy of this country. More about that a bit later. Let's take a look at this, shall we? So I'll just play you one small snippet of this from David Sherborne, then we're going to look at the apology and why it might actually come back to bite Harry a little bit that he might not have expected, certainly in the court of public opinion. Listen to this.
In a monumental victory today, News UK have admitted that The Sun, the flagship title for Rupert Murdoch's UK media empire, has indeed engaged in illegal practices. This represents a vindication for the hundreds of other claimants who were strong-armed into settling without being able to get to the truth of what was done to them.
And I'll link that below so you can go and watch the full thing, but one thing that Harry did get out of this, which a court would not be able to order, is an apology. Quite a lengthy apology, actually. So we'll come to that in just a second, and we'll come to why it might have more of an impact. Now, the reason I say we don't know what he won is because it seems that the actual settlement is confidential. Now, who knows what the legal fees ended up? They were probably more than the damages that were agreed, and we don't know what they are either. But first of all, let's look at the apology itself. And as I say, the court cannot order a party to apologise. It's just not within the court's power to do that. NGN's apology to the claimants, because obviously Harry was not alone in this claim against the Sun News Group newspapers in this unlawful information gathering case. It says NGN offers a full and unequivocal apology to the Duke of Sussex for the serious intrusion by the Sun between 1996 and 2011 into his private life, including incidents of unlawful activities carried out by private investigators working for the Sun. Very careful choice of words here, working for the Sun. NGN also offers a full and unequivocal apology to the Duke of Sussex for the phone hacking, surveillance and misuse of private information by journalists and private investigators instructed by them at the News of the World. NGN further apologises to the Duke for the impact on him of extensive coverage and serious intrusion into his private life, as well as the private life of Diana, Princess of Wales, his late mother, in particular during his younger years. We acknowledge and apologise for the distress caused to the Duke and the damage inflicted on relationships, friendships and family, and have agreed to pay him substantial damages. You can screenshot, pause or whatever and read the rest. Now those substantial damages are, as of the time of recording, are not public. We don't know what those are. But why might this cause him more of an issue than he might first have thought? Well, obviously, it is now subject to public commentary, such as Piers Morgan. He says, so, moral crusader, Prince Harry took the cash. Will he now be issuing a full and unequivocal apology to the royal family for his own serious intrusion into their lives for personal financial gain? Or is royal intrusion absolutely fine when he does it? What a hypocrite, he says. And I've heard the phrase hypocrite Harry thrown around as well. Now, as an aside, I work with some great companies that helps me to take the time to bring these videos to you on Secrets and on my main channel, Black Belt Barrister. And you know I'm a fitness fanatic, hence the black belt in the title of the channel names. And as a fitness fanatic, there is nothing more important than hydration, drinking water. So that's why I'm really pleased to partner with a company called Holy, who produce iced teas, energy drinks, and hydration drinks, which is really important. They do loads of different flavors which make them really delicious to drink, and they encourage you to drink more water. This is my favorite by a long shot. It's the strawberry and kiwi. I make them laugh because I keep saying it, but there's loads of flavors to choose from. This is absolutely my favorite. In fact, after I've taken a sip, it takes me a while before I can talk again because it's so tangy. Now, if you like the bottle, this comes along with the Starter Set Deluxe. At the moment, it's a limited offer, so you need to get in quickly. But what's even more amazing is they now even do milkshakes, including hazelnut. So they are really ticking my boxes of weaknesses here, because hazelnut is my favourite flavour of all time. They do hazelnut, banana, and, of course, vanilla. Now, with a little splash of milk, 1 spoon of powder, give it a shake, and you've got an absolutely delicious milkshake. These are just like you would find in a coffee shop, like a latte flavoured vanilla, banana or hazelnut, and in my case, the hazelnut. They really are delicious, and I would never tell you that they are unless I genuinely thought so. They are fantastic, and so as a partner to my channel here on Secrets, of course you get a discount. It is Secrets to get 10% off, or Secrets 5 to get £5 off if you'd like a nice round number off your order. 10%, as a hint, is probably better for a larger order or an ongoing order. It will give you 10% off those orders. There are 2 bundles I would recommend. If you like the milkshakes, go with the Milkshake Mega Bundle. Not only do you get all 3 flavours, but you'll get 3 of these shakers to go with it, and just like the drinks, they are 0 sugar and packed with vitamins. But if you go with, as a newcomer, with the Starter Set Deluxe, you get one of these fantastic limited edition bottles, a sticker set, and 42 servings of the different flavours. That would include the energy drinks, the iced teas, and the hydrations, so you'll know exactly what you like, so you can come back for more, and trust me, they will make you come back for more. Drinking water is probably the healthiest thing you can do, so this is my version of a new year, new me push, because not only did I give up alcohol 1.5 years ago, but I'm now giving up all the soft drinks and even 0 sugar soft drinks, and I'm going with these instead. These are full of vitamins and really healthy for you, so check them out. The codes are in the description, and thank you to Holy for sponsoring this video. Now, there are of course mixed views on this on social media. Anna Radcliffe says, I don't understand why Prince Harry didn't settle early like the other claimants, particularly when he had no intention of attending court. Well, maybe it's because he wanted this full apology. Maybe it was the level of damages. We don't know. There could be a number of reasons for that. Someone else, Lola, says, congratulations to the Duke of Sussex for bringing accountability to Murdoch. Bravo, Prince Harry. What you did was brave and courageous. Quite the reverse. Another account says, Prince Harry fails again. But someone else, on again flipping back, a public apology is worth more than any settlement, proves he was right and that they were liars. Well done for taking them on and making a stance and winning. So you see different views here, very different views. Some people say that he's taken the cash and run and he is a hypocrite, and other people say that he's brave to stand up and make them accountable and get the apology. Because, as I say, a court cannot force the company to apologise, cannot force anybody to apologise, cannot do anything other than really levy an amount of damages, and that is only if it goes to a full trial and the trial of the issues finds the company liable and thus concludes that there's an amount of damages payable. But on any level, I do think there's an amount of hypocrisy here, because this whole claim was very different. It was to do with journalists hacking and accessing phone and voicemail and things like that. Whereas with, and I've said this many times, the release of the documentary series and the interviews and Spare, revealing a whole lot of information that is really private information, private family information, that really, I think he knew the royal family wouldn't come back to dispute, wouldn't come back to rebut, and didn't really have a fair opportunity to rebut it, save for have a public fight of words and putting their rebuttal in the public domain and giving their version of the story, and then essentially having what really should be a private dispute out in the open, out in public, for everybody to hear. And so that, as Piers Morgan puts it, really makes it a bit of a hypocrisy, because he felt obviously that it was absolutely fine for him to release all of that material, and yet was suing a company for gathering information unlawfully. Now, I know the two are very different things. He can lawfully publish his own material and reveal stories as he wishes, but there is still the argument that people within any kind of story, generally, you understand, under any kind of story like that, if there is the misuse of personal information, somebody can bring a case for misuse of personal information. For example, letters, diary entries that have never been published, that are supposed to be private. if they are made public and the contents thereof made public, somebody could have a claim for misuse of personal information, breach of privacy, etc. So there is a level of hypocrisy here. But then ultimately, making a fair assessment here, the only possible result here would have been the court finding that they were liable to all of what they've been accused of and awarding damages if he went all the way to trial and was successful. But that wouldn't come along with an apology. Whereas in this scenario, maybe he feels that this was better than going to trial and winning. Because very often I say to clients, and generally I say, people may think that they can go to court and win and then feel like they've won if they quote unquote win the trial. But many people don't actually feel like that. When all is done and said, they've been to court, even if they win, they still don't feel like they've won. If anything, a Pyrrhic victory, they've technically won, but they feel like they've been put through a whole lot of misery just to go through to trial. And ultimately, they would probably prefer that they didn't go through it, even if it's their case and even if they win. Certainly, if they've been sued themselves, many people would prefer not to go through it, even if they win and successfully defend it. Many people then feel like they've lost either way, even if they win. Whether it's their claim or defending a claim, many people feel that they've lost just because they have to go through the whole process. Whereas here is obviously saved going through a full trial about it and settled it and got the apology, a full unequivocal apology for all of the things that they've set out in that apology. So I think actually in a great sense he is the winner here, because he's come away with a lot more than a court, certainly a court would be able to order. A court wouldn't be able to order the company to make this kind of full public unequivocal apology. So ultimately, I think he's done better than he would have done going to court. So now back to Rachel Reeves and her devastating budget and attitudes towards wealth and wealth creation. By the way, if you want more information on wealth creation, check out my other channel, Daniel Shensmith, linked below. But now it's revealed now that there's this infighting. I've detected this for a while now. This sort of infighting and tension within the Labour Party and within between members of the Labour Party, where they are going to ultimately disagree, in my view, disagree on certain key issues, policies, rules, changes, etc. And that might be the undoing, eventually, of this party. Now, here's one such example. Two very contradictory articles here. First of all, Rachel Reeves is to relax the non-dom tax rules because millionaires are leaving the country. Almost 11,000 of Britain's wealthiest people have left the country because of all the rules and the changes in the budget and so on. Now, why is that important? Well, because whether people like wealthy people or not, it is generally wealthy people that own businesses, are entrepreneurial and commercial and create businesses, create wealth, create jobs, and generally improve the economy. So on the one hand, it says the government is to amend controversial changes to tax rules for non-domiciled residents that were announced in October's budget as record numbers of millionaires leave the UK. I mean, it's no surprise if you've got wealthy people living here and they change the rules so they're going to have to pay a lot more tax, they are going to leave where it is a lower tax jurisdiction. That is absolute common sense. And that means they leave with their money, but not just with their money, but with all of the entrepreneurial and commercial nous that they bring to the economy to grow the economy. And they were at an event at the World Economic Forum, Davos, and says, we've been listening to the concerns that have been raised by the non-dom community, and they are looking to change those rules. But at the same time, there's another article that says that another Labour MP is calling to impose a wealth tax, a 2% levy on families worth more than £10 million. And so you couldn't make this up. These couldn't be further apart if you really tried. And so you remember just before the budget, a few MPs, including Zara Sultana, who has put out some questionable statements, to say the least, in my view, together put an open letter to Rachel Reeves to impose a tax on individuals with assets worth more than £10 million. Now, again, on the one hand, there are two sides to this. On the one hand, you might think, well, people that are wealthy enough surely can pay it. But on the other hand, people that are wealthy enough that they've accumulated this wealth have obviously done it because they are financially savvy, and if they are financially savvy, they're not going to stay here. They're going to leave, or they're going to move their assets elsewhere. 30 MPs and peers from different parties said that it would raise £24 billion a year, make it fairer, etc. Now, there are two arguments to this wealth tax, and on the one hand, if they impose it, it's going to raise some money. But on the other hand, they are going to lose a lot of people that are genuinely contributing to the economy here. And I frankly think that's a little bit short-sighted. But that's not all. They're now having a go at places of worship. Sky News reports the Church of England is concerned after government nearly halves the funding for listed places of worship repairs. It's reducing the amount of funding from £42 million to £23 million. Now, in the grand scheme of things, when they are sending billions with a B internationally and supporting immigration, etc., these billions of pounds that are going elsewhere, whether it's net zero, whether it's supporting Ukraine, wherever, these billions of pounds are being spent. And this is, by the grand scheme of things, a drop in the ocean, dropping £42 million to £23 million. In the grand scheme of all that spending, it's a drop in the ocean. But when it comes to these places of worship themselves, they are going to end up closing many of them because they simply don't have the budget. So quite clearly, all of these places that receive the funding, that will not receive the same amount of funding, are going to struggle and may face closure. There may be thousands of these places across the country facing closure. And speaking of facing closure, you've heard me talk about private schools facing closure, many of them. And I came across another really rather unfair quirk in the law and the exemptions here, which really, really does place British citizens below others. Allow me to explain. So again, in the Telegraph, I will try to remember to link it below. Children of US soldiers are exempt from paying the VAT on private school fees, while British troops must pay the full price, which quite literally is treating British citizens as second-class citizens compared to US soldiers while in the UK. Now, there does appear to be a technical reason for it, which is that private school fees are considered to be a service, and therefore allowing American military families to avoid paying it falls under the VAT-free purchase scheme. Because they are US soldiers, presumably based here, so their children go to school here, and for all the reasons that our own troops send their children to private school because they move around and so on. There's very good reasons for it. The private schools are generally better able to cater for those children that move around more frequently. Those American soldiers do not have to pay the VAT, but our own military personnel do. So quite literally, they are treated less favourably than others, sending their children to the same schools. James Cartledge, Shadow Defence Secretary, says the government is treating British forces as second-class citizens. While US military families are exempt from VAT, ours are having to fund Labour's ideological education tax. We consistently argued for an exemption to be applied. Labour must now urgently adopt the policy or accept that they are delivering deep unfairness to those who serve our country. And I absolutely, wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I disagree with the policy entirely, but I absolutely disagree that they should be treating military personnel in the British services less favourably than those in international services. In my view, it's absolute madness. But it doesn't end there. People in the comments on X are routinely screaming democracy anytime there's mention of a potential general election. I mentioned general election yesterday just to ruffle the feathers and stir the nest a little bit. And sure enough, it worked. A lot of people responded about that. Obviously, it's to spark discussion. And of course, those comments with, it's a democracy, we had a general election a few months ago, etc., all came out. But that sort of falls straight into the trap here. Because whilst you can go back and see all of that now, we now look at this here because Labour offers to align with EU rules in the latest Brexit rollback. Signing EU laws on chemicals is the latest sign, the willingness to roll back Brexit, new packaging rules, looking at following hundreds of other laws, etc., that all align with EU regulations and EU laws. Now, when they talk about democracy, now, for what it's worth, I voted Remain rather than for Brexit. But we had the referendum and it decided on Brexit. And for what it's worth, I think it was an unmitigated disaster. I think it could have been done well, but I think it wasn't. I think it was a disaster. There are lots of ways it could have worked out very well and we could have benefited from it, but I don't think we have. I think it's been nothing but costly and damaging to our entire country. For those that are really upset about immigration, etc., we used to have the Dublin Agreement, which meant that whilst part of the EU, we had the Dublin Agreement, which meant if someone arrived on a small boat here from France, for example, the Dublin Agreement meant that they would have to go back to France because that's where they came from. That's the agreement that we lost with Brexit. So I was against Brexit, but having the referendum voted for it, it should have been implemented properly and fully. And it should have been negotiated in a way that was good for our country. And I don't think it was, quite frankly. I don't think the result was very good. But whilst that happened, and people on the one hand are saying that we have a democracy, we should honour the democratic vote, well, we should honour what we voted for collectively, not personally, but collectively voting for Brexit. And so we ought to honour Brexit and do that properly. And so on many levels, we should now stamp our authority as a sovereign nation and act as an independent state. There's a lot of philosophical arguments there, but when I see headlines like this, which clearly signal that this government is going to just realign us quietly or not so quietly in some respects with EU laws and the rest of the EU, I think that's anti-democratic. I think that's going against what the British public voted for. Now, just for the avoidance of doubt, Brexit was never mandatory in the first place. It was a referendum for people to decide what they wanted. It was only because that they said we will abide by the referendum that they did so. Even it wasn't very successful, but it was never absolutely mandatory in the first place because, of course, nobody can bind Parliament, and even Parliament cannot bind a future Parliament, and so on. So a future Parliament can make and unmake any law that they wish. But I find all of this incredibly tiring and hypocritical and quite frankly damaging to our country and its reputation. Let me know what you think in the comments. These are my general thoughts here. I have mixed views. I support some of Labour's policies, but for the vast majority of them, I think they're damaging to the country. And for some of them, I think they could work well, but I think that the way they've been done is not the best way that they could be done. I think some of them been done straight away, and they should need to be done over time. Not least of which the VAT on school fees. They came in mid-academic year. That is just a disaster, utterly disgraceful, in my personal view. Putting the VAT on school fees at all, I think, is disgraceful, much less straight away in the middle of an academic year. But hey-ho, let me know what you think. You'll hear from my personal views on secrets. Let me know yours below. Thank you for listening to my partner for the video. Do subscribe, and as always, thank you for watching.